Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the.
As the old adage goes, all good things must come to an end. For the first time in Russ's career, he's lost 3 games in a row as a Seahawks starting quarterback. For the first time in Russ's career, he's missed games because of injury. And for the first time in his career, Russ and the Seahawks could potentially finish the season under 500 for the first time since 2011. And for the first time in Russ's career, the Seahawks are a pretty bad football team, even with him in the lineup. For the first time in Russ's career, the Seahawks are failing to field even a competent offense. And for the first time in Russ's career, he can't save them and make up for their plethora of inefficiencies all across the roster. And for the third time in his career, Russ Wilson has now had 2 games in a row in which he's been touchdownless. 2 games in a row. In their last 9 quarters, the Seahawks have scored 1 offensive touchdown, courtesy of running back third stringer DJ Dallas. In Seattle's last 19 possessions, they have 1 touchdown. Like I said, all good things must come to an end. And clearly, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson's time, at least together in Seattle, has run its course. I've been saying this ad nauseum for a while now. You can't have 2 guys driving a boat. Not only that, Pete Carroll now seems to have some sort of disconnect with a lot of the players in the locker room. We first heard about the disconnect between player and coach at the beginning of the season after that loss to the Minnesota Vikings, in which Trey Flowers called out the scheme and essentially called out Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll then responded in his presser by saying that, oh no, I didn't hear about his comments, blah, blah, blah. He essentially shot it down. The same thing happened with Tyler Lockett. In Tyler Lockett's post-game presser, he told the media that what they're seeing on film isn't what they see in game. So that basically means a lack of adjustments. A lack of adjustments is on who? The coaching staff. Pete Carroll specifically. He's the head of the snake, so the blame ultimately falls on his shoulders. Now, I've said this before and I will say it again. I understand Pete Carroll has had a great legacy. He's arguably the greatest Seattle sports coach in the history of Seattle sports. That much, I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's been a great coach. He's brought the Seahawks to relevance, or at least back to relevance, and he deserves a lot of credit for everything that he's done here in Seattle. I know that he's won a lot of football games, even just regular season games and division titles and whatnot. I know that there was that Super Bowl blunder in Super Bowl 49, yada, 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 yada. He's done a lot for the city of Seattle, and I'll never forget that and will forever appreciate that. But it's not that black and white. It's not like you think that, oh, you appreciate P and so you let him stay in Seattle until he wants to retire. I don't think it should work like that. Pete Carroll, not only has he failed to make adjustments in game, not only has he failed to correctly manage games, not only is he way too conservative, not only has he been so stubborn, he's also been terrible at drafting for the Seattle Seahawks. I understand John Schneider is the GM in name, but Pete Carroll does have the most power and he has more say than John Schneider. The reason for all these bad draft picks, blame it on Pete. The reason why the team has become so incompetent and terrible, okay, look, the players deserve blame. At the end of the day, they got to execute. At the end of the day, players are the ones playing and coaches are the ones coaching. But Pete simply isn't putting his guys in the right position to succeed. How can you have guys talking about film study and how there's this big disconnect between their film study and what they're actually seeing on the field? That's just not right. It just sounds to me like the Seahawks are just coming in unprepared. And when teams throw things their way, they're unable to adjust on the fly. Look, mathematically, Seattle is still technically alive. According to True Media and Football Outsiders, they have a 4% chance. But if I'm a betting man, I'm not putting money on the Seattle Seahawks. You know what I am putting money on though? BetUS. To all my new subscribers and to all my new viewers out there, if you aren't already aware, be sure to use our promo code down below. The link will be down in the description. In all caps, Steezy, and start placing your sports bets on betus.com today. You receive a 125% sign-up bonus on your first deposit on up to $2,500 today. Remember, you do have to be 18 moving forward, so keep that in mind. Let's talk some Seahawks, y'all. No team with Russell Wilson at quarterback, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Gerald Everett as some of their pass catchers, and a defense that has some talent in Quandre Diggs, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams. No team should ever be 4 games under 500 at 3-7 and looking like one of the worst teams in football. That should never ever be the case. Yes, talent isn't everything in the NFL. Coaching and schemes have a lot to do with it. But the Seattle Seahawks have just been so predictable for years now. And like I always say, you can't have 2 guys driving a boat. Russ wants to do this. Pete wants to do this. They can't and haven't really been able to come to a compromise. He's been dropping the ball back a lot in the last couple of games, last couple of years specifically. And so you might look at it as if, okay, Pete is catering to us a little bit to mixed results. But Seattle just has not looked like a very good football team. Defense, yes, they've been able to step it up. But with Trey Brown now out for the rest of the year because of a patellar tendon knee injury, DJ Reed, we don't know when he's coming back. The season might as well be over. Look, I could take solace in the fact that Seattle still has a 2nd round pick that they can improve the draft positioning in. Yes, the 1st round pick is not going to be there. If the draft were to start today, the Jets would have the 5th overall pick because of us, courtesy of us. And so we don't have a 1st round pick to obviously shoot for or even play for, but the 2nd round pick could essentially become a late 1st rounder depending on how Seattle season plays out. Now, I'm not saying that Seattle should tank. That should never, ever be in Russell Wilson's vocabulary, as well as the rest of the roster. But I guess that is something to look forward to in case Seattle can't make a run and start winning football games. And that starts with this coming Monday against the Washington football team, who is pretty hot. They're coming off 2 wins in a row. They've beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've beaten the Carolina Panthers, 2 quality teams. And so they're not over here beating up on weak teams. But there just really isn't anything for me to really have faith in Seattle going over to DC and winning this football game. I mean, like I said, that team is hot. They're finding their stride and they're getting hot at the right time. Without Seattle's starting corners, could we see Taylor Heineke start dicing up this defense? I'm not very confident in Seattle's secondary or their defense for that matter without a Trey Brown or without a DJ Reed. Jamal, he's been a little better in coverage than advertised, but he's still not getting it done. Still without a sack on the year. As it pertains to offense on 3rd down, they are just horrible. I mean, 2 for 10 against the Cardinals. It's been going on and on and on for the last couple of years now. Seattle has just never been a good 3rd down team. And this year, I mean, we thought that Shane Waldron was going to be the answer offensively, but I don't know if that's Pete having all that autonomy over the offense. Maybe it's just Pete who's actually calling plays or even giving Shane Waldron plays, but that Seattle offense just looks so bland. It looks so vanilla. It looks so boring. It looks so predictable, and you're not really giving Russ a lot to work with. I feel like not only is the play calling bland, the scheme and whatnot, obviously pass protection, the offensive line has been very disappointing to say the least. The threat of a ground game has become almost non-existent. Alex Collins is a little too inconsistent. Chris Carson injured and out for the season yet again. But look, when you look at some of the problems that plague this team, right? Obviously, like I keep saying, 3rd down. Well, on 3rd downs, Russell Wilson's most targeted receiver, courtesy of Michael Shanduga of The Athletic, is DK Metcalf. His 2nd most targeted receiver on 3rd down, it's not Tyler Lockett, and it's not even Gerald Everett. Want to take a guess? It's Freddie Swain. Freddie Swain is Russell Wilson's 2nd most targeted guy on 3rd down after DK Metcalf. Now, let me tell you why those 2 options on 3rd down aren't the best to even start off to begin with. DK Metcalf has struggled immensely with holding on to the football. He's had at least a drop in almost every single game, and while I still believe in his talent, while I still believe that he's still one of the best and premier wide receivers in all of the National Football League, he can't continue to have all these terrible drops that are drive killers. You see it time and time again in crucial moments or in crucial parts of different games this season. He's dropped the ball on 3rd down. He's dropped the ball in crucial situations. He's also made a lot of spectacular catches, and I'm not going to take that away from him, but he's had simply way too many mistakes in dropping the football. Tyler Lockett has not had a 3rd down target since week 2. Let that soak in for a little bit. Since week 2, Tyler Lockett has not been targeted on 3rd down, and instead Freddie Swain has been the other guy after DK Metcalf. And you ask why the 3rd down offense is so bad? Well, they can't protect Russell Wilson as well, and Russell Wilson, he's one of the worst quarterbacks on 3rd down, at least statistically this year. Even on film, the eye test, everything tells me that he's just been a bad quarterback on 3rd down. Now, everything around him has been on fire, and I know that he's been asked to carry this team time and time and time again. But Russell Wilson is still not targeting the middle of the field. Russell Wilson is still not really getting his tight ends and his running backs involved in the pass game. Russell Wilson is still so dependent on explosive big plays. And maybe that's because of Pete. Maybe it's because Pete has kind of put him in this mindset where he's afraid to turn the football over. And I totally get that. But wow, Freddie Swain is the 2nd most targeted guy on 3rd down. This team is relying on a formula that isn't sustainable on both offense or defense. Special teams play has also taken a nosedive, other than that of Michael Dixon's. But on offense, they literally thrive off of explosive plays. If they don't have an explosive play, they can't convert. And on defense, Seattle's defense just is not good at taking the ball away. And so they have to be elite in coverage. They have to be elite in getting after the quarterback. And they're not in either, especially now with Trey Brown, especially now without DJ Reed for I don't know how long. But look, I say all that to say that it might be an end of an era in Seattle. I'm not saying that both of them are going to go. Actually, if you ask for my honest opinion, I think Pete Carroll either resigns or is let go. And I think Russell Wilson gives Seattle one more year. I think that he's going to have a say in who is the next head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's going to have a say in some of the personnel decisions. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that Russell Wilson just is able to call the shots, but I think you retain John Schneider, you allow Russell Wilson to stay in Seattle for one more year, you build around him, and you see what happens. Pete, we appreciate everything that you've done in Seattle, but he is the oldest head coach in the National Football League, and is he really going to stick around for another rebuild? I highly doubt it. That marks the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. While that ends this video, you don't have to stop watching there. We got plenty of other content for y'all to watch, for y'all to stay tuned to. As always, nothing but love. All glory to God. And it's still Go Hawks, baby. Steezy out. Again, this video is going to be dedicated to Mr. Todd Nas. While that concludes this video, we have loads of other content. You don't have to stop watching there. Other content on our channel homepage, as well as our social media platforms. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for us. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Nothing but love, and Steezy out.